Hello, hello, hello. So, as you can see, this is what I'm keeping myself busy with. Do any of you read One Punch Man? This came out a few days ago, and this is how I practice my Chinese. I'm reading comic books in Chinese. So, find something you like to do, something you like to read, and then try reading that. So, I like One Punch Man. You can find something you like, I'm sure. Maybe this isn't your style. The cover is a little bit creepy, right? Ugh, a little too much. Wah! But I'm sure you can find a book or a comic or something you like to help you study. That's how I study my Chinese. Okay, so welcome to our stream for today. Hello, Eric. Hello, everybody else. And today we're going to be talking about our fourth conversation in lesson 1. And this is a more fun, go for it kind of personality. He's having fun. He's out there being a little bit silly, and he doesn't really care about what other people think. He's throwing caution to the wind. He's feeling free as a bird. And who cares what everyone thinks? Just dance like you're by yourself. Dance as if no one's watching, right? So we learned about going to a party and being all by yourself and being nervous and, oh, geez, what do I do? And then we learned about somebody who doesn't really care. Whatever, I'm a wallflower. And this time we have somebody who's having fun, just enjoying the party and going crazy. And so this is actually a really good way to just say, who cares? I don't care what other people think. Who cares what other people think? I'm going to have some fun. So let's start out with some pointers on how to be a better dancer, okay? Do you guys have any special dance moves? If you go to a wedding, in weddings in Taiwan, people don't really dance. But if you go to a wedding in the West, like a wedding in America, there will be a time where everyone is dancing. The young kids, the old people, and everybody in the middle will be dancing. So let's get some pointers on how to dance and have some fun with it. Now, usually people just go crazy and don't care. And if you feel nervous, what you can do, just do something stupid. And then if you look stupid, you can say, I was trying to look funny or trying to look silly. So you could try a couple dance moves that make you look silly, and you want to look silly because who cares? I'm having fun. So I have a few friends who finger point and go do, 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 dance like that. I have another friend who goes like this, hands like this, and then he scoops the air. Those are a little bit too funny, right? So you can try some special moves, like one that's really popular for weddings in America is the swim. You go whoosh, 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 and then you dive deep in the water and go blah, 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 blah. So just be silly and have fun with it. Another silly one is the chainsaw. A chainsaw is a machine for cutting down trees. So you can go like this, rung, 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 and then pretend you're cutting trees. So if you go to a dance party or a wedding, who cares? Say you're trying to look stupid. I want to look stupid. And then you won't feel bad if you do look stupid, right? So just be silly and have some fun. Now, let's get down into it and take a look at our homework and some of our sentences from our lessons, okay? So we'll go one by one and talk about each sentence and how we can say it in Chinese, how we can say it in English, and talk about some of your answers and how to make them better, okay? So the first thing is we're looking at look alike and using like and alike, right? So our first sentence was in part 4, section 2, conversation 4, section 2. 我爸和我哥的背影简直一模一样. Now this was actually probably the hardest sentence in this whole dialogue. Of all of the questions, this was one of the ones with probably the most problems and most questions. Because this is actually quite difficult to translate from Chinese to English. So 背影 in Chinese, there's not really a very direct translation into English. So I would say this as, I'll give you two answers. My father and my brother look almost alike from behind. So my father and my brother look almost alike from behind. So if you're looking at them from behind, they look almost alike, okay? This is probably the most direct way I would say 背影 in English. There's not really one word that is perfect for that. So I would say my father and my brother look almost alike from behind. If you're standing behind them, looking at them from behind, they look almost alike. Now, another way you could say this is, my father and my brother's silhouettes look almost alike. Now, this is a higher level word, an advanced word, silhouette. Silhouette means the outline of a person. So this could mean maybe you see their shadow, or from far away, their silhouette. My father and my brother's silhouettes look almost alike. Now, a lot of you had some good answers, and just because this is a tricky word, there were some little bits of issues, but it's okay. Everyone did a good job. So I would say they look alike from behind. I'd say their silhouettes look alike. You could also say their rear profile. So profile is just like the silhouette. So their rear profile. So their profile from behind, so from the rear. So you could say my father and my brother's rear profile look almost alike. And so those are the best three answers. Now, a lot of people said my father and my brother's backs look almost alike. That was a very common answer. But if you mean their backs, you mean actually the shape of their back, not their back profile, not their silhouette, but their actual back. Maybe your dad and your brother both have a big V muscly back. It's like, oh my God, they look almost alike. Now, then some people said back view. For a person, we wouldn't say that the person has a back view. A back view might be like you're in the back of your house, the back view, the view out of your house. A view is usually you're looking out at things. So the view from somewhere. Maybe you're standing on a mountain and you look out, and then the back view might be the other way, okay? And some people also said the view of their backs. My father and my brother's view of back. Again, view is usually when you're standing somewhere and looking out. So we could say the shape of their backs. That might be better, going for the shapes, the outline, or the profile, or the silhouette, okay? I also saw my brother's back is just like my dad's. Now, that is too much just the back, right? We're talking about the image, the figure, the shape. So if you just say my brother's back is just like my dad's, that means their backs, maybe they behave in the same way too. Maybe dad has a bad back. Oh, and so my brother has a bad back too. Oh, so hopefully they're okay. Okay? Now, this one was quite difficult. So if you had a hard time with this, don't worry. The rest of them, everyone did awesome. This one was probably one of the harder ones just because of that word 背影. In Chinese, it's not easy to directly translate into English, okay? So you have to think of other words to use to get the same idea, okay? And you can't say back shadow. That sounds too crazy, right? Don't go straight from Chinese to English. So we got to mix up the words, and sometimes using simple words is better. So they look almost alike from behind. Okay, the next one was 他们的故事有点像爱情喜剧. So this was a good one. Everyone did really good, but there's one word that maybe you've never studied before. A kind of movie. So let's see. I would translate this as, their story is a bit like a romantic comedy. Everyone was very close to this. Their story is a bit like a romantic comedy. Very good. Now, the standard way to talk about this kind of story or this kind of movie is romantic comedy. It's a comedy movie with a lot of romance in it, a lot of love. Okay? And it's so common to say romantic comedy to talk about a movie, we can shorten it and call it a rom-com. Romantic comedy, R-O-M-C-O-M, rom-com. Okay? So you could also say their story is a rom-com. Okay? All of you did a great job. Most people said something like their story is a bit like a love comedy or a romantic movie or a love romantic comedy. All of those are really close, but the standard way to say it in English, like when talking about a movie, what kind of movie is it? You'd say a romantic comedy. So love comedy is the right idea, but it's just not a common phrase. Romantic movie, that's a good phrase, but it doesn't have comedy in there. And then love romantic comedy, pretty good, but too many words together. Keep it shorter. Romantic comedy or rom-com. Now, next up is 别装作不认识我啊. Don't pretend, right? Or don't act that way. So maybe you see someone on the street and you're walking like this and they walk like this. They try not to look at you. Or they look down and walk quickly. This happens a lot, right? And so, hey, we went to school together. You know me. Don't pretend like you don't see me or don't pretend like you don't know me. How can we say this? I would translate it, or I just said it a few different ways, right? I would say this, the best way to say it is don't act like you don't know me, okay? So don't act like you don't know me. Act meaning the way they're behaving, right? The way they're moving, the way where they're looking, anything they're doing with their body is how they're acting. So don't act like you don't know me. Now, there are a few different ways to say this. You could also say, don't pretend that you don't know me, or don't pretend like you don't know me. That's all okay. So the action is a little bit different. Don't act like you don't know me would probably be the most common way, meaning just talking about everything you're doing with your body. You're acting that way. And then you could also say pretend. Don't pretend that you don't know me, meaning you're faking something, right? If you pretend, you're faking it. So remember that you want to say act like or pretend that. You could say pretend like, but remember, you don't want to mix them together. You want to use don't act like you don't know me. Don't pretend that you don't know me. But don't say don't act like that you don't know me. With the word like, you don't need that after it. So don't act like you don't know me. Or, and then don't say pretend like to. Remember, like to is if you do something. I like to do something. So here we don't need to. So don't pretend like you don't know me. We don't need the word to in there. Okay? Let's see. There was one more point, know versus meet. Okay? So we're using 认识, meaning you know someone. That means you have met before, but you know them after. So remember that meet is for the first time you meet someone. 认识 in English has two meanings. 认识 could mean the first time you meet, or later you know someone. Okay? So remember the difference. Meet is the first time. Know means you met them before and you know them a lot. Okay? You've talked to them before. Okay. Our last sentence is 这两间公司文化不太一样. So, when we're talking about businesses, a lot of the times we talk about company culture, right? The way people act inside of the company, the company culture. So, the way I would translate this, I would say the cultures at these two companies are not really alike. Okay? The cultures at these two companies are not really alike. Okay? So we're talking about two things, but we're talking about them as one unit, right? The cultures with an S, so multiple things, more than one thing. They are not really alike. So alike is if two things are together in one idea, right? A and B are not alike. So we have the two companies' cultures are not alike. So you could also say, as I just did, these two companies' cultures are not really alike. Both are okay. The cultures at these two companies are not really alike, or these two companies' cultures are not really alike. I would prefer the cultures at these two companies because you spread the ideas out further apart. If you say these two companies' cultures, you're kind of putting big ideas, big words close together, and it makes it a little harder to say, a little bit harder to understand if you're listening, okay? So if you separate them out, the cultures at these two companies are not really alike. Now, a lot of people used of, the cultures of these two companies. That would be okay too. But often we say cultures at a company, the culture at that company, the culture at this company. So meaning that the company is a thing and the culture at that place, like at the office, the way people behave in the office, okay? You can say of, but I think at is more common. It feels more common, okay? Now, one thing to be careful of, the word culture needs that S. So the cultures at these two companies. I saw a few people say the culture at these two companies. So remember, there are two companies, so there are two cultures. You need that S, okay? And one other rule to remember, company ends with a Y, but we're adding an S sound. Y becomes an I, and you add ES. So companies ends with IES, not YS, okay? And another thing is that, remember you need the verb is are, because the cultures are, two cultures. And so the cultures are not alike. And I saw a couple people use is. So be careful. Remember, we're talking about two different cultures, okay? I also saw the two companies are different in culture. That works. That's okay. These two companies are different in culture. It sounds more formal, but it's okay. The grammar works. They're different in culture. But it sounds more formal, and also you didn't use our grammar point, but that's okay. Getting your information to another person is more important than using the perfect grammar, right? Okay. Now, why do we use alike? We use alike because we're talking about two things are alike. Like the two things together are alike. If we use the word like, the two things have to be separate. You would have to say the culture at company A is like the culture at company B, right? You have to keep them separate. But if we have them together, we use alike, okay? And then I saw their two company cultures aren't alike. This is close, but not quite. Using their, you don't need the word their. If you use their, it would be THEIR, their company cultures, meaning their meaning you're talking about the two companies, so their company cultures are not alike. But that would be after we already know we're talking about two companies, okay? So I would say stick to using the words the two companies' cultures, or the cultures at these companies, okay? Let's see, any questions or comments? I think it's a bit hard for me to distinguish some vocabulary if it is singular or plural. Yeah, it can be difficult, but sometimes you just need to try to imagine the situation. What are you talking about? We're talking about two different companies, and so each one has a different culture. And so in the Chinese, we didn't say two cultures, but in English, There are two companies, so they have to have two cultures, okay? So then you know it's plural because it's more than one. It is tricky, but just try to work through it. Try to imagine exactly what are we talking about. So take your time, imagine, try to picture what it looks like. Sometimes you can draw a picture or draw a little simple chart on a paper, and it might help you out. Figure out, oh yeah, okay, so this is this, that is that, so it has to be two different things, right? Okay. So let's move on to conversation 4, part 3. This one, we are also talking about comparisons. We talk about like and as, right? Going forward, all of these have many different ways you can translate them because like and as are often interchangeable. You can use like or as, and they're both okay in a lot of situations, or at least in spoken English. In spoken English, like and as are interchangeable. And so in spoken English, people almost always will go for like. The first step would be think of using like. People love to use like in America, even when they're using it wrong. So some of these situations, if you hear someone say it, they might just use like. And maybe the grammar is wrong, but that's how people speak, right? So we're learning correct grammar, but there are also many ways to say these. So if my answers are different than yours, don't be discouraged. You're doing a great job. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. The comments below is talking about culture. Culture seems like it's countable or uncountable. Well, the thing is that some words can be both countable and uncountable. That's a really annoying thing to hear, right? All those rules you learned about countable and uncountable, sometimes it's not true. It's kind of ridiculous, right? So let's say we have the word cheese. If you go to English class, your teacher will tell you cheese is an uncountable noun. If you say, may I have one cheese, please? The teachers will say, you sound ridiculous, okay? You need to say one slice of cheese or one piece of cheese, right? But sometimes cheese can be countable. Now, why? When you think of cheese as a category, like a kind of cheese, if you're thinking of a kind of something, it becomes a countable noun. So let's say, stick with the cheese example. Your teacher will say cheese is uncountable. You can't say two cheese. You have to say two pieces of cheese. Okay, sure. But what if I have American cheese and I have cheddar cheese? Well, we have two kinds, and so we have two cheeses, right? So if we're talking about kinds of things, then you can turn it into a countable noun. So like culture, usually culture is uncountable. Like we have American culture, Chinese culture, and usually it's an uncountable noun. But if we're talking about types of cultures, there we go. We add an S. There is American culture, there is Chinese culture, there is Taiwanese culture. Those are different cultures, right? So you can count them if you're talking about types. I know it's really tricky, but sometimes countables can be uncountables, uncountables can be countables if you're talking about big picture. So like this, culture is often uncountable. There is a lot of culture around the world. But you could also say there are many different cultures in Asia, right? You can say, okay, Japanese culture, Korean culture, Thai culture. Those are 3 different cultures. Okay, a little bit of an aside, but uncountable, countable is tricky. If you're thinking about types of things, you can add that S, okay? Let me know if you want more examples later, okay? Like cheeses, many different kinds of cheeses, many different kinds of breads, right? So all the rules you learn about English, sometimes sorry, rules are hard. There's never any real solid rule in English. So anytime you read in an English book, you can never say this. Maybe it's not never. So you got to be careful and just figure out the situation. It's pretty annoying, right? But that's English for you. English is annoying, but it's so useful because it has so many different things mixed together, okay? Okay, let's see. We were trained to say 2 kinds of cheeses, but not 2 cheeses. Well, yeah, you could say 2 kinds of cheese, but you could say Parmesan cheese and cheddar cheese are 2 cheeses, or 2 types of cheese, 2 different cheeses. So, I mean, it's hard to give you a hard answer, but yeah, English is kind of a tricky beast. So it's a little bit crazy. Yeah, just practice, practice, practice. And it's always good to add a measure word, but sometimes it doesn't work. Like somebody might say, I'm going to go get 3 coffees. That means 3 cups of coffee. And usually your teachers will say, you can't say 3 coffees, but people say it. So sorry, sometimes people break the rules, right? Okay. According to the cultures at these 2 companies, when do we say N1 of N2? When do we use other prepositions? This is a complicated question. We can get into it another time, but of works. Of is a good answer. The cultures of these companies. But a very common phrase in English is to use at for company culture. So when we're talking about a company, we often will use the word at that company, at this company. We think of a company as a small location, kind of like a school, at that school, at this school. So you can think of a company as a like institution where we use at. But of is the general preposition you use to connect these 2 ideas. So in that sentence, of is perfectly fine. But in conversational English, people will often use at. So don't get confused. Of is not wrong. At is just a common way to say it too. Okay? Let's see. I think learning from TV shows or books, etc., is more easy than memorizing the rules. Yeah, if you memorize the rules, you'll get yourself all mixed up. It's better to follow examples. That's why we try to give you so many examples and try to hear different ways to use it in sentences. Instead of giving you a chart with this needs this needs that, we try to give you more examples. And learning from examples, you'll be able to figure it out better than if I just give you, this is rule number 1, this is rule number 2. You'll get all mixed up, okay? Okay, let's see. Now let's move forward, and we finished up the cultures one. So let's move on to that little brat. Ugh! So I think we all have to deal with people who are playing tricks on us or being silly. When I was in high school, I had a friend who always was really annoying, and he would always play pranks on me. And so I would say, 不要像小屁孩一样恶作剧. So no, I wouldn't really yell that at my friend in high school, but it's fun to imagine. So maybe you yell at your friend to don't do this. So I would translate this as, don't play pranks like a little brat. So to play a prank is worse than a trick. A prank is like a mean joke. So that's why I use prank instead of trick. So I said, don't play pranks like a little brat. So playing pranks makes it sound like it's kind of mean, okay? It's not a nice, silly, fun thing. Maybe you get covered in paint or somebody will not be happy with what happened, right? So it's a prank. It's a little bit meaner than a joke. So you could also say, don't play tricks on people, or don't play jokes on people. Okay? Both of those are okay, but pranks is a little bit more negative, a little bit meaner. So don't play pranks like a little brat. Now, I use like because I followed it with just a noun. Don't play pranks like a little brat, okay? And back to playing pranks. Someone said, make any mischief. Don't make any mischief. Now, this is correct. That's a really good phrase, but it's very formal. It sounds like something from a book. Don't make any mischief. Maybe someone in a movie or in a book might say this, but day-to-day life, make mischief sounds too formal, okay? Usually we'd say play pranks, play tricks, play jokes, okay? Someone also wrote make a trick. Now, for trick, you want to use the word play. Make doesn't really work. Make means you're making something, but playing is you're trying to be funny, okay? Play a trick, not make a trick. Someone else also said do mischief. Don't do mischief. This is close to make any mischief, but do mischief, well, again, mischief, the verb that goes with it is make. Make mischief. Make mischief. Mischief means like doing bad things, but it's too formal. So I would stick to play pranks, play tricks, play jokes, okay? And I use like because I follow it with a noun, like a little brat. So if there's a kid, a young kid, who's really annoying, you can call him a brat, B-R-A-T. Now, like I said a couple weeks ago, the T sound at the end is actually a stop. You don't go brat, B-R-A-T, brat. No, you say brat and stop. Don't say brah, you have to say brat and stop your sound. So the T is actually a stop sound. Don't play pranks like a little brat. Another way to say brat would be annoying kid, like that annoying little kid. Or you could also say a pain in the butt. Anyone who's a pain in the butt is someone who's annoying. If you want to say it less nice, you could change butt to the A word, A blank blank, the bad word for down there, a pain in the A. Or if you're talking to a kid, you can say, oh, you little pain in the butt. That's okay to say to children because it's not a bad word. So don't play pranks like a pain in the butt. Okay. I also saw a little punk. Now this is pretty good. A little punk is similar to a little brat, but a little punk sounds a little bit older. A little brat sounds really young, maybe in elementary school. A little punk might be a teenager or something. So a bad kid who's a teenager, okay? Some people also wrote just child or kid. Now, using child or kid by themselves doesn't have the bad emotions in it. So try to add a descriptor, describing word, an adjective. I saw someone say mean child, and someone said spoiled child. Those are okay, but the meanings are a little bit different. A brat is a kid who is naughty, and he doesn't follow the rules and acts silly. A mean child means they're actually being mean. They're saying bad words or they're angry at people. A spoiled child, the problem with that kid is that the parents were too nice to the kid. So a brat and a spoiled child are similar, but spoiled child is focusing on that they were poorly raised by their parents, okay? Someone also said, don't play pranks as a naughty child would do. As a naughty child would do. Someone used would as the child would do. Now that's okay. You're using as plus the verb, but it sounds a little formal. Too many words. As a brat would do. You can just simplify it and make it like a brat. Okay? Let's see. Any questions? Can we use prank as a verb in this sentence? Usually, pranks are a noun. Usually. So don't play pranks or don't play a prank on me. You could use it as a verb. Someone pranks someone, or don't prank me. But in this situation, usually we would use it as the noun. Don't play pranks. It's more common that way. So you could use it as a verb, but it's more often a noun. Okay? Let's see. If we pronounce the T of brat with a stop, will it sound the same as Brad? Brad, brat, Brad, Brad, brat, Brad, bat, brat. They're very similar. How do you describe this? Brad, brat. The D has a little bit How do I describe this? Brad, brat. They sound almost the same, right? But the D, you're starting to make the D sound. And then the T, you're starting to make the T sound. This is really hard to describe, but try to make a D sound, but then stop yourself in the middle. Brad, Brad, and then brat, brat. So make the shape in your mouth for a D and a T, and it will make a tiny little difference. But really, when you're listening, they sound almost the same, right? So later we have Brad Pitt. It's not the same as Brat Pitt. So Brad Pitt, Brat Pitt. Sounds very similar, right? But the T is a little bit harder stop. It's tricky, yeah, but try your best. Oh, how can I spell the pain in the butt? Pain is P-A-I-N. Pain, like ouch. Imagine you sit on something and it hurts your butt. It's a pain in your butt. Something hurting your butt. And so imagine someone is just like you're sitting on something that hurts your butt. It's annoying. So you could say that person is a pain in the butt. P-A-I-N. Okay. Now, let's keep on moving. Next up is 你的听力跟狗狗一样灵敏. So, I would translate this as, your hearing is as sharp as a dog's. Now, remember, be careful. At the end, as a dog's. Apostrophe S. Okay? Why is it apostrophe S? Because the full thing you could say, your hearing is as sharp as a dog's hearing. Okay? So your hearing, a noun, is as sharp as a dog's hearing. And then we can take away the word hearing because we already said it. So we can say, your hearing is as sharp as a dog's. Remember, apostrophe S, not just an S. Okay? So, here I use the word hearing. If we're talking about our senses, we'd say your sight, your taste, your hearing, your touch, your smell. When we're talking about your sense, we use the word hearing. Your hearing is as sharp as a dog's. Now, the word sharp is the adjective we use the most for hearing. Your hearing is very sharp, okay? Meaning you have really good hearing, okay? Another adjective you could use is sensitive. Your hearing is as sensitive as a dog's. So sharp means really clear, and then sensitive means you can hear very small sounds. Slightly different, okay? Other people use, your hearing is as good as a dog's. That's okay, but it's less focused, right? We want to use a more focused adjective to get our meaning across. You could also say, your listening is as sharp as a dog's. That's okay. Listening is fine, but when we're talking about a sense, the first word we go to is hearing, your hearing. I also saw some people use, you can hear as sharp as a dog. That would be okay. That would make it into the verb. You can hear as sharp as a dog. Just a dog, no apostrophe S, okay? But if you use your hearing, the noun, after, you need to say the dog's hearing, okay? So I saw a lot of people say your hearing is as sensitive as a dog. Hearing and dog don't match. You have to say hearing, dog's hearing, okay? So we need that apostrophe S to make it clear that you're talking about the dog's hearing, okay? Is it apostrophe S or S apostrophe? If we're talking about in general, so your hearing is as sharp as a dog, or as a dog's hearing. We're talking about in general. If I pick any dog out of the world, your hearing is as sharp as that dog's hearing. So dog's. So it's apostrophe S. Okay? We're comparing one person to one dog. So we have apostrophe S. Okay? A dog's hearing. Okay? But very good question. Yeah, that's tricky. I also saw you have really good ears as dogs have. This is pretty good, but when we're talking about hearing, we want to use that word hearing, right? So your ears are as good as a dog's ears. That would be okay, but I think it's better if we're talking about the sense, use the name of the sense, hearing, okay? You could also say you hear as well as a dog. That's okay. Now, next up is your friend was really lucky. Oh my gosh. 他前几年中乐透，现在过得跟富豪一样。So, your friend is super lucky and wow, making money, right? Okay. I would say he won the lottery a few years ago. Now he lives like a king. Now this one, everyone did a really good job. And I included an idiom that maybe you haven't learned before. So a lot of you used an answer like this, which is just as good. It's also good. He won the lottery a few years ago. Now he lives like a rich person. Okay? So both are okay. But if we want to use a common phrase, you could say lives like a king. So how does a king live? A king lives in a castle with lots of gold, maybe people around him serving him lots of food. So you could say he lives like a king. Okay? It's a pretty common phrase. Now, one big thing that I have to remind you all is this should be 2 sentences in English. In Chinese, it's 1 sentence with a comma, but in English, we want to separate it into 2 sentences. He won the lottery a few years ago, period. Now he lives like a king, period. Okay? So, I said he won the lottery. You could also say he won the lotto. Lotto is a shortened form of lottery. Both ways to talk about the same thing. And I said a few years ago. You could also say a couple of years ago. A couple years ago could mean 2 or a few. People use a couple to mean a few sometimes. So both are okay. So now he lives like a king. Lives like a king is to show that his life is like a king. I saw some people use the word acts like. He acts like a rich person. Now, acts like doesn't necessarily mean he is rich. Maybe he just acts like it. He buys expensive things, but he doesn't really have a lot of money. So to act like something doesn't mean you really are. But if he won the lottery, he really is rich. So we'd say he lives like. Okay? I also saw he leads a life as a rich person, or like he leads a life like a rich person. Again, kind of like acts like. Leads a life like sounds like he's acting that way. Maybe it's not really what he's like. But if you want to say he's really like that, you'd say he lives like it. Okay? I think lives like a king is best. It's a common idiom, a common phrase. Lives like a rich person is okay too. Lives like a rich man is okay too. Don't say lives like rich men. Okay? We're comparing one person to one person. He lives like a rich man. Okay? That's why we use a. Just like the dog question. A dog. Here it's a rich man. Okay? Comparing one to one. And I saw a few people use millionaire or billionaire. He lives like a millionaire, or he lives like a billionaire. Those are great answers too. That's fine. Millionaire means he's rich. Billionaire means he's super, super rich, like Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, or the founder of Amazon. But don't get too fancy with your words. I saw someone say he lives as luxurious as a magnate. Now, luxurious is a very good word. This is an advanced word meaning very, very fancy. But it's very fancy. And then magnate is not a really common word. So you could say he lives a luxurious life like a king. That would be okay. But magnate is not a common word in American English, at least. So try not to use magnate unless it's in a special situation. That's not a very common word. So I would say he lives like a king is probably the best. Good. Next up is 这东西很容易碎，你拿的时候要越小心越好。So your friend is going to pick something up and you got to go, whoa, 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 hey, hey, hey. And I would say, this thing is really fragile. Be as careful as you can when you pick it up. Okay, so just like the last one, remember, in Chinese, it might be one sentence, but in English, we want to have two sentences. This thing is really fragile, period. Be as careful as you can when you pick it up, okay? 很容易碎. In English, you could say is easy to break. That's okay, but there's a word for that. We use fragile. Fragile means easy to break. So you could say this thing breaks easily, or this is easy to break, or this is easily broken. All those are okay, but fragile takes many words into one. So fragile is a good choice here. Okay, and many people use stuff. Now, stuff means more than one thing. Maybe there's a box of stuff and there are a bunch of things inside. But if we're talking about one thing, I would say thing. So it really depends on the situation. So if we're talking about fragile, usually when we're talking about something being fragile, it's just one thing. Maybe a lamp. This lamp is really fragile. So that's why I use thing. This thing is really fragile. If you have a box of many glasses, you could say this stuff is really fragile. That's okay too. It just depends. Thing is one, stuff is usually many, okay? I used be as careful as you can when you pick it up. So the when phrase I put at the end. You could put it at the beginning. You could say, when you pick it up, be as careful as you can. That's fine too. Just remember to put a comma. And I use pick it up, meaning that the stuff is on the ground or the thing is on the ground and then you pick it up. Okay? Pick it up is focusing on that action. Now, it depends what we're talking about, right? If we're talking about picking it up, you got to be careful when you pick it up. Or if the person's holding it and walking somewhere, that's carry. So I saw many people use carry it. So be as careful as you can when you carry it. That's okay too. Now, don't use take it. Take it means you're taking something away from somewhere. But we're talking about holding something and carrying it, right? Or picking it up. So be careful. In Chinese, the word na in English has many different meanings. So we got to think of the situation. Are they holding something and carrying it, or are they picking it up? Taking something means you're taking it away from somewhere, okay? Maybe I take a pen from the office, okay? Also, hold it is you're just standing still. That would be okay, but when you're holding something, you don't need to be super careful because you're probably not going to do anything to break it, okay? So pick it up or carry it is better for the sentence because there's some movement, okay? I said be as careful as you can. So my verb is be. Be careful. Be as careful as you can. I saw people use carefully. Carefully is okay if you connect it to an action verb. So pick it up as carefully as you can. That would work out okay. But if it's be as careful as, then we need careful. If it's pick it up as carefully as you can. Okay? So be, then adjective, action, then adverb, carefully. Okay? Next up is 他看起来好像暗恋我. Ooh, so some romance here. Ooh. So there are many different ways to translate this. And the Chinese sounds one way, but when we put it in English, I would start with the word it. It meaning the situation. So I'll tell you two different ways to do it. I would say, most commonly, I'd say, it seems like she has a crush on me. So it seems like meaning the situation. Okay? It seems like she has a crush on me. You could also say, she looks as though she has a crush on me. Okay? Now, if you say she looks, that means you're looking at her and the way she's acting. Like maybe she's doing something. Maybe she's going, ooh. She looks as though she has a crush on me. Ooh. So remember, looks is about you're looking at her and you're seeing something about her makes it feel like she has a crush on you, right? But if we're talking about generally the situation, I'd say it. It seems like she has a crush on me. Now, a secret love, we usually say has a crush on someone. She has a crush on me. He has a crush on her. Okay? And I said, it seems like blah, 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 blah. Now, like we said before, after like, we usually want a noun, right? But in spoken English, we put anything after like. It seems like she has a crush on me. The correct way to do this with the grammar would be, it seems as though she has a crush on me. But a lot of people will just use like instead of as though. Okay? So both are okay. It seems as though she has a crush on me. Now, has a crush is the most common way to say this. You could also say, she has feelings for me. Okay? Crush is usually a noun. So we'd say, has a crush. It's less common for crush to be a verb. So usually it's a noun. Some people said, she is crushing on me. Or she crushes on me. Usually crush is a noun, and we'd say she has a crush, okay? So generally, I'd say don't use crush as a verb. Most of the time, people use it as a noun. She has a crush, okay? Or you could say she has feelings for me. I also saw she loves me secretly. That sounds a little too formal. So she loves me secretly sounds like something from a book. So we can stick to saying has a crush. So loves me secretly, not wrong, but it sounds a little too formal for day-to-day conversation. Okay. Next up, 好闷热啊，感觉要下暴雨. Oh my God, what am I saying? You get what I mean. It's going to rain, right? So I would say, it's so humid. It feels as if it's going to pour. So it's so humid. It feels as if it's going to pour. Okay. Now, 闷热, usually we'd use the word humid. Humid means hot and wet together. Hot and wet together. The air feels hot and wet. So we'd say humid. You just need that one word. Now, if you want to make it stronger that it's humid and hot, that's okay, but actually flip it around. It's very common for people to say hot and humid. So hot and humid. There's not really a real big reason why one goes before the other. Hot and humid is better than humid and hot. Why? It just sounds a little bit better. I don't know. There's not really much of a rule. They're both right, but hot and humid sounds better to most people. Okay? So it's so humid is what I would say. You could also say muggy. Muggy is a great word to mean very, very humid. Muggy means the air is wet and uncomfortable. Feels like a blanket. Okay? Other people said scorching and stifling. Scorching and stifling. They sound like they're more dry heat. It's really, really hot, but maybe it's dry, like the sun is burning you. It's scorching or it's stiflingly hot. Both are okay, but the manra sounds like it's wet and muggy and humid, okay? Now, humid and warm, hot and humid's okay, but humid and warm doesn't really go together because humid is usually more hot than warm, okay? And then I said, it feels as if it's going to pour. Pour is a verb meaning huge, heavy rain, okay? It's going to pour. You could also say it's going to rain. That's less strong. It's going to pour rain. It's going to rain a lot. It's going to rain heavily, okay? I saw some people say it's going to heavy rain, or it feels as if it's heavy rain. Now remember, heavy rain is a noun. If you want to use rain as a verb, you would have to say rain heavily. Heavy rain means it's an adjective noun. Rain heavily, verb, adverb. Tricky, right? But if there's that ly sound on heavily, that tells you it's a verb. Rain heavily, okay? It feels as if it's going to pour. You could also say it feels as if there will be heavy rain, or there will be a downpour, tons of rain, or a storm, okay? And then remember, it feels, the S on feel. I saw a few people say it feel. It is singular, so it needs that S on feels. You could say it feels like, or it feels as if, it feels as though. You could also say it seems like. You could also say it looks like. But looks like, remember, is focusing on what you can see. Maybe the clouds are really dark. Okay? Now, next up, let's see. 他对我说话的态度好像他是我的老板. Ooh, this guy is too much, right? Don't talk to me like that. So I would say this as, he speaks to me as though he was my boss. You can tell the grammar is all mixed up. The words are all mixed around. And we kind of drop some for this version of the English. So I'd say, he speaks to me as though he was my boss. So his action, he speaks to me. And in what way? As though he was my boss, okay? That's the simplest, most direct way to say this. Now, you could also say it if you want to include taidu, that idea. You could also say, the way he talks to me sounds as if he was my boss. The way he talks to me sounds as if he was my boss. So we have as if he was. We have past tense here because it's imaginary, right? So both of them are okay. But the shorter, more direct version is, he speaks to me as though he was my boss. So, like we said last week, speaks and talks are slightly different. Speaks is focusing on the person talking. Talks is focusing on that maybe it's a conversation. Both of them are okay here. Speak and talk are okay in this sentence. Speak is focusing on him speaking. Talk is focusing on, in general, talking. So speak is more focused on the speaker, okay? So you could say, the way he talks to me. Now, I saw some people say, the attitude he talked to me. The attitude he talked to me, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you want to say this, you'd have to say, the attitude he talked to me with. The attitude he talked to me with. So take that whole thing and make that the subject. The attitude he talked to me with was as if he was my boss. Now that works with the grammar, but as we said, it's getting complicated. Try to keep it simple, okay? I also saw he was talking attitude. Now, I know what you're trying to do here. Maybe he was talking with an attitude, I think is what you were trying to say. He was talking with an attitude. But if you say with an attitude, it sounds like he's being rude to you. Saying with an attitude sounds really negative. But here, he speaks to me as though he was my boss. That sounds kind of negative, but maybe he just talks like he's really important. It doesn't necessarily mean he's saying bad things to you or mean things to you, okay? Next up. Can I use as if there will be heavy rain? So back to our last question. Sorry if I missed your comment. It didn't cover every little bit. If there will be a heavy rain. Now, we usually don't use a for rain. We wouldn't say a heavy rain. Like I said before, it's an uncountable noun. And we're not talking about a kind of rain. So we're just saying rain, heavy rain. So it feels as if there will be heavy rain. Yes, that is okay. Just as long as you take away that So it's so humid, it feels as if there will be heavy rain. Or you could also say there's going to be heavy rain. That's okay. Yeah. Next up is 昨天凯尔看到我的时候，像看到鬼一样。So, oh my gosh, it's you. No, I wouldn't do that. Don't worry. Hopefully I'll be friendly and say hello. I'll try my best. I won't go, ah! So, how would I say this in English? I would translate this to, Kyle looked as if he saw a ghost when he saw me yesterday. So, like some of the other sentences, we're mixing around the words. Kyle looked as if he saw a ghost when he saw me yesterday. So we take the time phrase, when he saw me yesterday, put that at the end. Kyle looked as if he saw a ghost. So as if he saw a ghost is a pretty common phrase. Like if you see someone you're not expecting, you look as if you saw a ghost. So Kyle looked as if he saw a ghost when he saw me yesterday. It's you. You could also say, when Kyle saw me yesterday, it was as if he saw a ghost. So changing the subject to it. So you can move when to the beginning or to the end, and then say Kyle looked as if, or it was as if. So when Kyle saw me yesterday, it was as if he saw a ghost. Now, I used Kyle looked as if, okay, right? Or you could say it was as if. Now, you could also say it seemed as if, right? You get that feeling. It seemed as if he saw a ghost. Now, a lot of people said, Kyle saw me as though he saw a ghost. Now, we're focusing on the way I look at you, the way I look, the way I do this action. I look at you and seem scared. So we're using look, the verb. The verb saw is a general word for using your eyes to see something. But if we're focusing on the action of your vision going from your eyes to a person, we want to say look at someone, not see someone. See someone or I saw someone sounds like you visit them. But if we're focusing on their eyes pointing at someone, we want to use looked at, okay? Kyle looked as though he saw a ghost, or Kyle looked at me as though he saw a ghost. That's okay too. Different focus. Kyle looked as if he saw a ghost means the way I'm acting looks like I saw a ghost. If you say he looked at me as though he saw a ghost, it's focusing on the way I'm looking at you, okay? And remember, when Kyle saw me, it was as if he saw a ghost. I saw a few people say it as if. You need the verb here. It was as if, okay? Don't forget it was, okay? And a few people said met a ghost. don't use the verb met. Met would mean you say, hello, nice to meet you. My name's Kyle. Hello, ghost. How are you? So you don't meet a ghost. You see a ghost. Okay? So remember to use saw here. I also saw he thought I was a ghost. Now the grammar is not wrong, but the meaning is quite different. If I look as if I saw a ghost, it means I look scared. But if he thought I was a ghost, it means I actually think, oh my God, you are a ghost. So the meaning is quite different. Okay? Now next up, 他用轻松的口吻说着，好像不关他的事一样。So the way I translate this is, he spoke with a calm tone of voice, as if it was none of his business. Another way to say this would be, he spoke with a calm tone. He sounded as if he didn't care. So, oh, blah, 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 blah. He sounded as if he didn't care. So none of his business or he didn't care are similar in meaning, right? So I said a calm tone of voice. You could also say a relaxed tone of voice. He sounds really relaxed. His tone of voice sounds relaxed. Many people say he spoke easily, or he talked easily, or he said easily. Now, when we're talking about how someone spoke, we don't really speak easily, or not in this context. He sounds too calm. He doesn't really care. He's like, yeah, whatever. So he's laid back. It's not that he's something speaking. Speaking easily means it's not hard to speak. It's not difficult to speak. So he speaks easily. If you have a friend where their English is excellent, he speaks English easily. But in this context, I would say he spoke with a calm tone of voice, or he spoke calmly. He spoke in a relaxed tone of voice, okay? Easy doesn't really fit this situation. It's not talking about his mood, his relaxed way of talking. Okay, so I said as if it was none of his business, as if he didn't care. You could also say as if it wasn't his problem. It was nothing to do with him. It was not his business. It was none of his business. All of these are okay, okay? Different ways to say that it's not his problem. He just doesn't care, okay? And be careful, don't put an S on business. So a few people said none of his businesses. We just say none of his business. No extra S sound. No ES at the end, okay? Next up is, 我之前都没有发现你跟布莱德比特长得这么像. I got through it. Brad Pitt, okay? Hopefully you all know Brad Pitt, this actor. A really good actor, and he's really handsome. He's in his 50s now, and he still looks really good. So I would translate this to, I never realized you and Brad Pitt look so much alike. I never realized you and Brad Pitt look so much alike. Okay? You could also say, I didn't realize you and Brad Pitt look so much alike. Okay? So if I say, I never realized, there's a D sound at the end. I never realized. If you use didn't, you say, I didn't realize. No D on realize. Okay? Because didn't already has the past tense. Past tense on didn't, so realize does not need a D. But if you use never, there's no past tense there. I never realized with a D. Okay? Now, realize is the best way to translate 发现 here. Because realize means suddenly you go, oh, wow, you look alike. Other people use notice. Notice would be okay. I never noticed that you and Brad Pitt look so much alike. I never noticed that. That's okay. I would use realize because it's more of a surprise, right? I also saw I never found that you and Brad Pitt look so much alike. That would mean that you still don't think so. I never found that you looked alike, meaning in the past and now you still don't look alike. but realize is you're just, suddenly, oh yeah, you do, okay? I use alike. You could also use like, but you have to separate the words. So you could say, you and Brad Pitt look so much alike, or you look so much like Brad Pitt. If they're together, A and B are alike, or A looks like B, okay? So either they're together or separate. And then use look like, meaning it's true and it's still true now. If you say looked like Brad Pitt, that would be in the past. A few people use looked like. That would mean before they looked alike, but now not really. And then I also saw some people say, you and Brad Pitt are alike, or you are like Brad Pitt. We want to use look like. If you are like Brad Pitt, that means everything, not just your looks, but maybe your life and the way you live. So if your friend is a movie star, you could say you are like Brad Pitt. But if we're just talking about looks, we want to say look like, okay? And then here we said 长得这么像. 这么像, I would use so much like. So much means like they're very similar and it's surprising. So much like. You look so much like Brad Pitt. I saw a few people say exactly like. Exactly means 100% like Brad Pitt. So it's not that they're similar. That would mean they're exactly the same. 100% the same. That would be shocking. And then almost like Brad Pitt. That also means really, really close to the same. So much means more than you expect. But if you say almost alike, that means that maybe they're 95% the same. So exactly is 100% the same. Almost alike is really close. So those are a little bit too strong. So I think so much is better. Someone also used Bradley Pitt. Now, his full name is Bradley Pitt, but generally everyone just calls him Brad Pitt. It sounds better too. 1, 2, Brad Pitt. Bradley Pitt, you can hear it in a song. There's a song that talks about Bradley Pitt, but day to day, people call him Brad Pitt, okay? Now, next up is 那对情侣望着彼此，好像旁边没有人一样. So, there are many different ways to translate this, but using the phrases from our dialogue, I would say, that couple is staring at each other as if no one's around them. So we have two people and we call them that couple. So couple is a pair of people, that couple. And couple is one pair of people, one couple, so we use is. That couple is staring at each other as if no one's around them. So I saw a few people use the word lovers. Now, the word lovers is less common. It sounds a little bit poetic and a little bit too formal. Those lovers over there. It sounds cute and fancy, a little bit funny, but it's because it's too formal. Usually if we're talking about two people that are dating, we'd say that couple, okay? And I said that couple is staring at each other. To stare means their eyes are locked and they're staring at each other. Other people use gazing. That couple is gazing at each other. Gazing means looking at for a long time. But staring is a lot stronger. Their eyes are not moving, okay? A few people use look at. That couple is looking at each other. That's too simple, too relaxed. You want a stronger verb, like staring or gazing, to show the intense look. If you just say look, it's like they look at each other. It's too relaxed. We want a stronger stare. I also saw people say watch. That couple is watching each other. And again, like look, that's too casual, too relaxed. We want a stronger verb. Staring or gazing, okay? and as if no one's around them. So there are many different ways to translate. So, as if no one's around them, as if no one's next to them, as if no one's nearby, as if no one's watching, as if no one was around. All of these are okay, but we need to use, if you use was, it needs to be past tense because it's imaginary, it's not real. I saw a few people say, as if no one is there, but is would mean it's true, but it's imaginary, so we use was, as if no one was there, okay? I also saw as if there wasn't anybody. That's close, but you want to say around. So as if there wasn't anybody around, okay? And then I saw as if there's only themselves. Because you use the word themselves, you want to use connected ideas. They are there by themselves, something like that. If we use there, we're not going to talk about them again. So there wasn't anybody around, but saying there was only themselves, it would be better if we were talking about the people around them or that there's nobody around them, okay? Now, next up is 你有没有英文变更好的 pitfall? So, do you have any... Too quick. So this is a very useful question for you guys to ask. So I would translate this as, do you have any pointers on how to improve my English? So do you have any pointers on how to improve my English? So again, pointers, you could say pointers, you could say tips, you could say advice. Pointers and tips mean small little bits, while advice sounds like you're asking for a little bit more, okay? Pointers and tips or advice is a little bit more, but all three are okay. So do you have any pointers on how to improve my English? And you could also say, do you have any pointers on how to make my English better or help my English get better, right? So you want to say my English because you're focused on your English. If you say make English better or improve English, remember you're talking about the English language. So if you want to say, how do you improve English? Well, you're saying, how do you improve the whole language? But we're talking about my English. So your skills. You could also say my English ability, my English speaking, my English skills, okay? But remember to use the word my because you're talking about yourself, okay? So don't say make English better. Maybe we could make English better, but you want to make your English better, okay? I also saw how to getting better. You could say how to get better speaking English. Do you have any pointers on how to get better speaking English? But don't say getting better. If we have to, it should be to get better, not to getting better, okay? So let's see. Yeah, so we're improving something, okay? So I saw a few people say how to improve speaking English. Now, we're, again, like I said, we're focusing on our skills, our abilities. So we don't want to focus on the action of speaking English. We're not making speaking English better. You're making your English speaking skills better, okay? So do you have any pointers on how to improve my English or my English skills? Now, there are many different ways to improve your English. I've said them many times before. A quick one that I've been practicing with some students recently is to watch videos. So I would say watch a video at full speed. Let's say a YouTube video, watch full speed, no subtitles, then watch it again on 0.75 speed, slower. And then it'll be easier to catch the words. So the first time, full speed, you'll feel, oh, it's too fast. 0.75 speed, you'll feel, oh, this seems okay. Then listen to it again on full speed again. And then, oh, suddenly it's way easier. Listen to it slow and then listen to it fast, and you'll catch more of the words. That's my little tip for today. One little pointer. Okay. Let's see. Does anyone have any final questions before we stop for today? So thank you again to Sarah for leaving some notes in our chat and helping people keep track of some of the important notes that we had. That's really helpful and really useful. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any more questions for now. So let's call it a night. And if you would like to chat with me one-on-one for a few minutes, send a text to Kyle Moai. And if nobody sends me a message first, I might choose a couple of you and send a message and say hi. And because some of you maybe are a little too shy to send the first message. So if you want to chat with me, send a message right away. If you're a little bit nervous, maybe I'll come find you, okay? So that's it for tonight. If you go out partying this weekend, remember, just dance like an idiot. Don't worry about what other people think. Throw caution to the wind. Be free as a girl. Free as a girl. Be free as a bird. And then, what else do we say? Who cares what other people think, okay? So have fun out there, and I'll talk to you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.